Imagine a world where you spend all your time trying to have fun. Think about always being entertained and getting everything you want. But what if that came at a cost? What if constantly chasing pleasure made you a slave instead of free? Today we're going to talk about how wanting pleasure too much can actually trap you. We'll look at old wisdom and new psychology to see how wanting to be comfortable and happy all the time can steal your freedom. By the end of this, you'll understand something that could change how you see your life. Let's explore the hidden dangers of pleasure and how to become free in a world that wants you to always want more. Aldous Huxley wrote a book called Brave New World, where people gave up their freedom to be happy. They took a drug called soma to stay content, even though their lives were meaningless. Huxley said that controlling people with pleasure is the sneakiest way to control them. Think about our world today. With all the notifications and social media, aren't we also being offered our own version of soma? Psychologists warn us that technology can be fun, but it can also trap us in addictive loops. Algorithms show us things that keep us hooked, but leave us feeling empty. How often do you grab your phone for a quick boost of joy, only to realize that hours have gone by and you feel worse than before? There's a downside to chasing pleasure called the hedonic treadmill. It means that no matter how happy we get, we always go back to feeling normal. The joy from a new car or a tasty meal fades, and we start wanting the next thing. Like Huxley said, we become prisoners of our own desires, always chasing something we can't quite reach. This isn't just a theory. Studies show that as we get more conveniences, our mental health gets worse. One study found that too much screen time on social media is linked to more anxiety and depression. The scariest part is that this cycle feeds itself. The more unhappy we feel, the more we use the devices that make us miserable. So what does it really cost to chase pleasure all the time? Viktor Frankl, who survived the Holocaust, said that real happiness comes from finding purpose, not just pleasure. He believed that when people don't have a reason to live, they look for distractions, which only makes them feel worse. Are you living a life with a purpose, or are you letting the desire for pleasure control your choices? This is an important question, because we make these choices every day. Should we watch another episode or spend time with family? Should we scroll through social media or work on ourselves? These little decisions add up to create our lives. Aldous Huxley said that people easily take things for granted. When we're always chasing pleasure, we forget about the things that really matter: relationships, creativity, learning, and helping others. Here's the big idea. Chasing pleasure too much doesn't make you free. It creates invisible chains that tie you to habits and distractions that waste your time and energy. Next, we'll talk about how some systems benefit from our addiction to pleasure and how to break free. But for now, think about this. Are you living as a free person, or are you just a consumer in a world that profits from your desires? Keep this in mind as we continue to understand the dangers of pleasure and how to become free. Imagine a world where your attention is the most valuable currency. It's not about gold, oil, or technology, but about you and your focus. Every moment spent scrolling or clicking means you're not just using content, but also being bought and sold. This is the attention economy, a system that grows by hooking you on pleasure and trapping you in endless consumption. To see how deeply this system controls you, consider how it uses your biology against you. Dr. Robert Sapolsky, a neuroscientist, found that our brains are designed to seek rewards. When you feel pleasure, your brain releases dopamine, which encourages you to repeat the behavior. Getting likes, buying something new, or winning a game all give you a dopamine rush, creating a loop that keeps you wanting more. The trick is that anticipating pleasure releases even more dopamine than actually experiencing it. That's why you might anxiously wait for a text or constantly refresh your social media feed. The possibility of a reward, not the reward itself, keeps you hooked. The attention economy turns you into someone who is always seeking but never truly satisfied. Think about how this plays out in your daily life. Do you ever check your phone without thinking? Or crave a snack or a video, only to feel empty after you get it? These aren't accidents, they're carefully designed experiences. Tristan Harris, a former Google design expert, explains that these platforms exploit our weaknesses. They use unpredictable rewards, similar to slot machines, to keep you addicted. The longer you stay engaged, the more information the company has to sell. This connects to Aldous Huxley's Brave New World, where pleasure was used to control society. People were so focused on their desires that they didn't realize they had lost their freedom. Today, we are facing a similar situation. While we might not be taking soma, we are surrounded by digital distractions that pacify us and keep us in line. Why is this so important? Because constantly seeking pleasure robs you of your potential. When you choose quick gratification over meaningful goals, you miss opportunities to grow, learn, and contribute. Cal Newport, in his book Deep Work, points out that shallow engagement with technology weakens your ability to focus. He says that the greatest rewards come from hard work and deep concentration, not easy pleasures. Think about how much time you spend on activities that truly improve your life. How often do you choose instant satisfaction over long-term fulfillment? These questions are meant to make you think, not to make you feel guilty. Recognizing these patterns is the first step to taking back your freedom. However, breaking free is difficult because the system encourages pleasure-seeking. Advertisements promise instant happiness, and society tells you that success means having more things. Erich Fromm warned that society's focus on having things rather than on being leads to a shallow existence. True joy is replaced by the empty satisfaction of owning things. So what can you do? Start by changing your mindset from seeking pleasure to seeking purpose. This doesn't mean giving up joy, but rethinking its role in your life. Martin Seligman, the founder of positive psychology, has shown that the most fulfilling lives are centered on meaning, involvement, and relationships. Pleasure is part of this, but it's not everything. What brings you real joy? Not the fleeting kind, but the lasting kind that comes from creating, connecting, and contributing. Where in your life are you choosing short-term pleasure over long-term growth? There are practical ways to break free from the attention economy and live more intentionally. But for now, remember this. Constantly chasing pleasure leads to a kind of slavery. To be truly free, you must take back control of your attention. Now, let's address the most important insight, the revelation that ties everything together. The pursuit of pleasure, while alluring, is ultimately a distraction from the deeper pursuit of meaning. True happiness, as Aristotle believed, comes from eudaimonia, the flourishing life. This is not a life of endless pleasure, but a life aligned with virtue, wisdom, and intentionality. Each of these avenues requires us to look beyond ourselves and our immediate desires, inviting us to engage deeply with life. Start by asking yourself these questions. What legacy do I want to leave behind? How can I use my strengths to contribute to others? When faced with difficulty, how can I transform it into an opportunity for growth? These are not easy questions, but they are transformative. By seeking answers, you take the first steps toward breaking free from the chains of pleasure and stepping into a life of purpose. But to live such a life, we must develop discipline. Discipline is the ability to choose long-term rewards over short-term gratification. It is the strength to say no to what is easy and yes to what is right. As author Jocko Willink says, discipline equals freedom. To cultivate discipline, start by building small, consistent habits. Wake up a little earlier to meditate or reflect. Set aside time each day to pursue a meaningful goal. Limit your exposure to distractions that drain your energy and attention. Here's another powerful practice. Embrace discomfort. Growth rarely occurs in comfort zones. Whether it's pushing your physical limits, learning a new skill, or facing a difficult truth, the willingness to endure discomfort is what separates those who achieve greatness from those who settle for mediocrity. Every time you choose discipline over indulgence, you strengthen your ability to live with purpose. Every time you resist the pull of distractions, you reclaim a piece of your freedom. So what will you choose? Will you continue to follow the easy path dictated by fleeting desires? Or will you rise above, embracing the challenge of living with intention and purpose? The choice is yours. This is your moment to awaken. The chains are invisible, but they can be broken. The path is steep, but it leads to greatness. Choose wisely and step boldly into the life you were meant to live. We must learn to discern between what delights us and what destroys us. The answers to these questions lie not in the next distraction, but in the quiet moments of self-reflection, in the stillness where our true selves can be heard above the noise of the world. It is in these moments that we can begin to understand the forces that shape our choices and the paths we are truly meant to follow. Let's continue this journey together, uncovering how we can reclaim our time, our focus, and ultimately our lives. What comes next will challenge everything you think you know about happiness and freedom, pushing you to question the very foundations upon which you have built your understanding of a good life. Be prepared to reevaluate your priorities and consider a new way of living, one that is not dictated by the fleeting pleasures of the moment, but guided by a deeper, more enduring sense of purpose. Now let's go deeper into the psychological and philosophical consequences of a life driven by the pursuit of pleasure, examining not just the individual impact, but the broader societal implications. If we've learned anything from thinkers like Aldous Huxley and modern psychologists, it's this. Unchecked hedonism doesn't just enslave individuals, it reshapes entire societies, subtly altering the values and priorities of entire cultures. It's a slow, insidious process that can transform a society from one that values virtue and purpose to one that is obsessed with comfort and convenience. Consider the concept of soft tyranny, a term often used to describe control that feels comforting rather than oppressive, a control that is welcomed rather than resisted. Alexis de Tocqueville, in his analysis of democratic societies, warned that people might one day willingly surrender their freedoms for comfort and security, trading their autonomy for a life of ease and convenience. This is precisely the world Huxley envisioned in Brave New World, a society lulled into compliance not by fear or force, but by pleasure and distraction, a world where the pursuit of happiness becomes a means of control. Now look at our world. Every day we are bombarded by promises of ease, smart devices that think for us, apps that deliver instant gratification, and a culture that glorifies convenience above all else, making us believe that the easier our lives are, the happier we will be. While these advancements make life more comfortable, they also make us more dependent, eroding our ability to think for ourselves and solve our own problems. The less effort we put into living, the more power we surrender to those who control these systems, becoming passive consumers rather than active creators. But here's the hidden danger. This dependence doesn't feel like enslavement. It feels like progress, a sign of how far we have come as a society. It feels good, offering us a sense of comfort and security that is hard to resist. And that's what makes it so dangerous, because we are less likely to question something that feels good, even if it is ultimately harmful. As Huxley wrote, a really efficient totalitarian state would be one in which the all-powerful executive of political bosses and their army of managers control a population of slaves who do not have to be coerced because they love their servitude. A population that is happy in its captivity and therefore poses no threat to those in power. Think about how this applies to your life. How many decisions do you make freely, based on your own values and beliefs, and how many are influenced, if not dictated, by algorithms, trends, or societal expectations, subtly shaping your choices without you even realizing it? When was the last time you chose discomfort for the sake of growth, instead of opting for the path of least resistance, challenging yourself to step outside your comfort zone and push your boundaries? This is not just a personal issue, confined to your own individual life. The consequences of a pleasure-obsessed culture ripple outward, affecting relationships, communities, and even the planet, creating a society that is increasingly disconnected, isolated, and unsustainable. Philosopher Søren Kierkegaard described this phenomenon as the despair of the aesthetic life, where individuals seek beauty and pleasure at the expense of meaning and responsibility, neglecting their ethical obligations and failing to contribute to the greater good. He believed that true fulfillment could only be found by embracing the ethical life, a life of purpose, commitment, and higher ideals. A life that is not just about feeling good, but about doing good. Let's make this practical, bringing these abstract ideas down to earth. Imagine two paths. One is paved, smooth, and easy to walk, offering you a life of comfort and convenience. It leads to a life of instant gratification but little substance, a life that is ultimately empty and unfulfilling. The other is rocky, steep, and challenging, requiring you to exert effort and make sacrifices. It requires effort and sacrifice, but offers the rewards of growth, connection, and legacy, a life that is rich in meaning and purpose. Which path are you walking right now, at this moment? Are you on the easy path, seeking comfort and convenience, or are you on the challenging path, striving for growth and meaning? Modern psychology backs Kierkegaard's insights, providing empirical evidence to support his philosophical claims. Studies show that people who prioritize intrinsic goals, such as personal growth, relationships, and contribution, report higher levels of happiness and life satisfaction than those who chase extrinsic rewards like wealth, fame, or status, demonstrating that true happiness comes from within, not from external sources. Yet our culture constantly pushes us toward the latter, bombarding us with messages that equate happiness with material, possessions, and social recognition. Why? Because a society built on consumerism depends on dissatisfaction, requiring us to constantly want more in order to keep the economy growing. If you were truly content, satisfied with what you have, you wouldn't need the latest gadget, trend, or product, and the economy would collapse. This is why advertisers don't just sell products. They sell lifestyles, creating aspirational images that make us feel inadequate and incomplete. They make you believe that happiness is always just one purchase away, just beyond your reach, keeping you in a perpetual state of wanting. But here's the truth, the inconvenient truth that our culture tries to hide from us. No amount of external pleasure can fill an internal void, because the void is not a lack of material possessions, but a lack of meaning and purpose. This is why so many people, despite having everything they thought they wanted, still feel unfulfilled, empty, and lost, searching for something more but not knowing where to look. Psychologist Carl Jung famously said, "People will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own souls, because facing our souls requires us to confront our deepest fears, insecurities, and vulnerabilities." The relentless pursuit of pleasure is often a way to avoid the harder, but more rewarding, work of self-discovery, distracting us from the questions that truly matter and preventing us from living authentic lives. So how do we escape this trap, this cycle of pleasure and dissatisfaction? It begins with awareness, with recognizing the forces that are shaping our choices and understanding the systems that are keeping us enslaved. We must learn to recognize the systems and behaviors that keep us enslaved to pleasure, becoming more conscious of our own patterns and motivations. But awareness alone is not enough, because knowledge without action is meaningless. We must also take action, deliberate, sometimes uncomfortable steps toward reclaiming our lives, taking control of our choices, and living with intention. Start small, with simple but powerful changes that can have a ripple effect throughout your life. Turn off notifications, reducing the constant stream of distractions that bombard your attention. Set boundaries with technology, limiting your exposure to social media and other addictive platforms. Choose meaningful activities over mindless distractions, spending your time on things that truly matter to you. These actions may seem insignificant, but they are revolutionary in a world designed to keep you distracted, because they reclaim your attention and allow you to focus on what truly matters. Ask yourself honestly and without judgment, what would your life look like if you prioritized meaning over pleasure? If you made choices based on your values and beliefs, rather than on the fleeting desires of the moment? What habits or mindsets would you need to change to walk the path of growth rather than gratification, to embrace the challenges that lead to true fulfillment? As we move into the final part of this journey, we will explore the most profound insight, the ultimate key to breaking free from the chains of pleasure and unlocking your full potential. This revelation has the power to transform not just how you live, but who you are, changing your fundamental understanding of yourself and your place in the world. Stay with us because the most important lesson is still to come, the key that will unlock your freedom and allow you to live a life of purpose, meaning, and joy. Let us now confront the heart of the matter, the core challenge that lies before us. How do we reclaim our freedom in a world that thrives on our addiction to pleasure? A world that is constantly trying to distract us from what truly matters? The answer lies in understanding a profound truth, a truth that has been recognized by philosophers and spiritual leaders for centuries. Real freedom comes not from doing whatever we want, indulging our every whim and desire, but from having the discipline to choose what truly matters, aligning our lives with our values and pursuing goals that are meaningful and purpose-driven. Philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche once wrote, "He who has a reason to live can bear almost any how," highlighting the power of purpose to sustain us through even the most difficult times. This insight is a cornerstone of liberation, a key to unlocking our full potential. When we anchor our lives to a deep purpose, a reason for being that transcends our own individual desires, the fleeting allure of pleasure loses its grip on us, becoming less tempting and less powerful. Purpose acts as a compass, guiding us through distractions and temptations toward a life of significance, a life that is worth living. Consider the lives of those who have made a lasting impact on the world. Visionaries like Mahatma Gandhi, Mother Teresa, or Martin Luther King Jr. Their greatness wasn't born from seeking comfort, avoiding discomfort, but from embracing struggle in pursuit of something larger than themselves, dedicating their lives to a cause that was greater than their own personal needs. They remind us that the most profound joys often come from acts of service, creativity, and perseverance, not from momentary indulgences, fleeting pleasures that fade away as quickly as they arrive. But how do we find our why, our purpose in a world that pulls us in so many directions, bombarding us with messages that tell us to focus on ourselves, to prioritize our own happiness above all else? Viktor Frankl offers a path forward, based on his own experiences in the Holocaust. In Man's Search for Meaning, Frankl describes 3 sources of meaning, 3 ways to find purpose in our lives: creating something of value, contributing to the world in a way that leaves a lasting legacy, experiencing love and connection, building meaningful relationships with others and sharing our lives with those we care about, finding growth in suffering, transforming difficult experiences into opportunities for learning and personal development. Now, what will you choose in this moment and in every moment that follows? Will you continue to follow the easy path dictated by fleeting desires, allowing yourself to be controlled by the pursuit of pleasure? Or will you rise above, embracing the challenge of living with intention and purpose, choosing a life that is rich in meaning and fulfillment. The choice is yours and yours alone. This is your moment to awaken, to recognize the chains that bind you and to break free from their grip. The chains are invisible, but they can be broken with awareness, intention, and discipline. The path is steep, but it leads to greatness, to a life that is truly worth living. Choose wisely and step boldly into the life you were meant to live, a life of purpose, meaning, and joy. This is your time to shine, to make a difference, and to leave a lasting legacy on the world.